Jan
Oh,
asked me a couple of weeks ago. So I had a few requests, and one of Jan's was for some readings. So I've got two poems for us today. And we're going to start with one at the beginning. And they're both from Ryokan, the Zen poet who we had last week, which I'm very into. So One Robe, One Bowl, Ryokan. So the 18th century Japanese Zen poet. So with these poems, it's very much, I think, about a mood. And I read this at the beginning of my yoga practice. So settle down onto your backs. So lie down. You can have your knees bent or your legs long. And just let yourselves arrive on your backs. And it might be that you have a couple of big exhalations. It might be that you want to let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. And I think, Ruth, with your neck issues, make sure you've got a cushion, or make sure your head and neck are really comfortable. Let's settle yourselves down, and I will read this very short 4-line poem. In the empty doorway, many petals are scattered. As they fall, they blend with the song of the birds. Slowly, the bright spring sun appears in the window, and a thin line of smoke drifts from the incense burner. So when I was practicing earlier, one of the things this brought to mind for me was this idea of the different doorways into our body, and how, as we come to yoga, we perhaps shut some of those down. So we maybe close the eyes and start to return our attention inward. We obviously don't have our eyes closed all the time in yoga, but perhaps at this point at the beginning, it's about perhaps closing some of these doorways to the body, to the mind, so that we can focus on what's inside of ourselves rather than what's out there. So turning your attention inward, feeling the movement of your breath within your body. And when you're ready, you can, if your legs are long, bend your knees, stand your feet on the floor. Start to use that very simple movement of tilting your knees from side to side to help you feel your body. So it's always easier to feel our body when our body's in movement. And these very simple movements help us to feel ourselves without bringing in any force. So being really easy with this, so you can feel the weight shifting side to side across the soles of your feet. You can feel the weight shifting side to side across the back of your pelvis. And you can notice how this movement feels around the pelvis, into the hip joints, into the lower back. And if at this point, Ruth's already talked about feeling, not great after falling off her bike. If at this point you're noticing that your body feels quite stiff, then just really go easy with things. So what I'd like you to do from here is settle in the center, keep your right knee bent, and lengthen your left leg out on the floor. So we're going to come to this movement where we start to press down into the right foot. Let the right side of the pelvis, hang on a minute, someone's got their leg up in the air. No, okay, it's down on the floor now, Jude. So that was confusing me. So you've got your right knee bent, your right foot standing on the floor, your left leg long on the ground. You're starting to press down into your right foot. Let your pelvis lift on the right side and let your pelvis tilt over towards the left. So Beata, you're okay with this, aren't you? I think we might have done
that last time. We've done that last time, I think. Yeah, I know that one.
Good. So just repeating this a few times. And again, it's about using this movement to help, really to help get your awareness into your body. So as you press into your foot and the pelvis lifts on the right, there's maybe a feeling of starting to open a little bit down through the ribs on the right side of the body, down through the front of the right hip joint. And you could help this movement. You could bring your left hand across your body and just help those ribs on the right to lift a little bit as your pelvis lifts. Or just really feeling how the ribs, not the shoulder, Kayla, the ribs. So maybe a little bit lower down with your hand. I wasn't quite sure what was going on there. It just looked like you were lifting your shoulder. So yeah, the sort of low ribs. Just encouraging those ribs to come along with the lifting of the pelvis. Okay. And then just settle your pelvis down for a moment, and you're going to keep your leg as it is, keep the right foot standing on the floor. You're going to cross your arms over your chest with your right arm on top. Yeah, that right, Kayla. Sorry, I've got to make a view of Kayla, you see. It's why she's going to help your attention. Now, what you're going to do now is carry on pressing into your right foot, letting the pelvis lift on the right, but you're also going to start to roll across your upper back. So your weight rolls towards the back of your left shoulder and the right shoulder comes away from the floor. And you can also let your head roll to the left. Beata, are you still okay with all of this?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what you could do is you could reach out on the floor to your left with your right fingertips. So rather than rolling onto your right hand, as your weight rolls to your left, you can slide your right fingertips out along the floor. As you do this movement, keep sending the right knee forwards over your footprint rather than letting your right knee come over to the left. So it's this very nice feeling that we roll across the back of the body towards our left side.
It's a really nice movement, actually.
It's really nice. I think especially, it's always quite popular in the evening. So yeah, so we get this sort of, give ourselves a bit of a massage. We open out through the left side of the body. Ruth, how are you feeling?
It's really good. Again, it's great movement.
Good. Okay, lovely. So do this once or twice more and then just let yourself rest for a moment. You can uncross your arms. You could either bend the other leg or lengthen both legs out. And just have a little breather. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Yes, I saw your feet there, Ruth. Excellent. So whatever you like for a breath or two. And then we'll move on to the other side. So organize yourself so your left knee is bent, your left foot is standing on the floor, and your right leg is long on the ground. And then just let your arms rest on the floor to start with. So you're going to start by pressing down into your left footprint, letting the left side of the pelvis come away from the floor, letting the pelvis tilt towards the right, and see how it feels on this side. And Ruth, you're probably going to find that you feel quite different on both sides. So,
Great.
So as you press into your left foot, send your knee forwards over your footprint. Very nice. Let yourself roll towards the outer edge of your right leg, as the right leg is passive on the floor. And then when you're ready, you can give yourself a hug with the left arm on top. And then just like we did on the other side, as you exhale, you press down into the left foot and you let yourself roll across your upper back. So the left shoulder comes away from the floor and your weight rolls onto the back of your right shoulder more. and your head also rolls to the right. That's it, very nice. That's it, Maria. So your fingers, you can let your fingers reach out along the floor towards the right. This is the left fingers. Good. Very nice. And just really enjoying this movement as a way of undoing, massaging the back, opening out through the left side of the body, releasing tension. So one of our focuses for today was this sense of, I suppose, lengthening around the middle of ourselves. So maybe as you do this movement a couple more times, just have that notion and this sense, yeah, of lengthening around the middle, which we will explore more in the next thing. I'm going to get you too excited about this. Next thing. Good. Yes, and then just either lengthen both legs out, bend both knees, uncross your arms. And I think you're going to come over and you're going to watch me just so I can show you this next thing, which, gosh, I think we may not have done since we're at Unit 4 because it involves a little bit of space. So, can you see me?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So it's quite interesting. So I've had this sort of tight hip on my top side, and it was very helpful for this. So your starting point is your bottom knee is bent, the top leg is long, my head is sandwiched between my arms, and then in one direction I roll my head forwards and I swing my leg back a bit. And then in the other direction, I roll my head back off that bottom arm and the arm goes back and the leg comes forwards. So we're moving a bit like a propeller. We're trying to keep long, yeah, from the top arm through to the top heel. Does this make sense? So we just keep
Yeah.
movement.
I can't see, is your leg that's not moving, is it straight? Or
No, the
bent?
leg that's not moving is bent. So I'll talk you into that.
Oh,
It's
okay.
sort of rolling back and then we're rolling forward. Come on, let's bounce onto one side and I'll talk you into this. When I was thinking of doing this, I thought this would be a challenge in Zoom. Come onto one side, your bottom knee is bent and your top leg is long, and you've got your head is resting on your bottom arm. So your bottom arm is long, your head is resting on it. And then your top arm is on top of your head. So your head is the filling in the sandwich. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So yeah, so just settle there, and then I'm just waiting for everyone to get into position. And then really what you do from this, so if you were to go, let's roll the head forwards. So you're rolling your head forwards off the bottom arm, you're rolling the top arm forwards, and you're swinging your top leg back. And then you're going the other way. So you're letting the top leg come forwards and you're rolling your head off. That's it. Keep the leg on the floor as much as possible, Kayla. So that top leg, you want to keep it as low down as possible. So the toes are almost sort of sliding on the floor rather than lifting up into the air.
Is the leg on the floor, is the other leg on the floor, that bent one?
The bent leg is the bottom one.
And it's on the floor?
Yeah, the bent leg, your bottom leg is bent and it's on the floor.
Yeah, that's
leg.
right.
The top leg, you want to try and keep your foot as much as possible in contact with the ground.
Yeah.
Rather than lifting the leg up into the air.
Yeah.
And so as the leg moves back, you let your arm and your head roll forwards. And as your leg moves forwards, you let your arm and your head move back. So Maria, when you roll back with your head and your arm, you could let the arm come all the way back towards the floor. Oh, but not the leg. You see, the arm goes back, but the leg comes forwards. That's it, yeah. So the arm and leg are going in opposite directions. Okay. Emma, are you confused?
The top arm, does it stay touching the bottom one the whole time?
So if I'm rolling onto my head.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah.
As my top leg goes back. And
Okay.
then as I roll my head back, my arm moves back. So no, the top arm moves.
Oh, okay. No, I was keeping them both stuck together, so I
Yeah, me too, actually.
try
The
again.
top arm moves in the opposite direction to the top leg.
It's quite hard to do the bit where you roll forward and have your face down. I can't get over my arm.
I've had to take my glasses off.
That might help. Yes. Yeah. Well, you just we'll try again, Ruth, and see how that works. So, challenge. If you imagine that your top arm and your top leg are like the two blades of a propeller. And so you're trying to keep them in that organization. So if one is forward, the other one has to go back.
I am struggling as well.
Beata, do you want to watch again? Do you want to see?
I will watch again, yeah.
Yeah, well, we could try the second side. So if you want to watch again, have another look. I will just tell me. So the starting point is on your side, bottom legs bent. You start off with your head sandwiched between your hands, but it doesn't stay there. So I would be rolling forwards towards my face and my arm comes forwards, the top arm. And then I let my head and my top arm come back and I let my top leg come forwards.
Mm-hmm.
And then I let the head and the arm come forwards and the leg goes back. Yeah, so it's almost like you're having to counterbalance yourself. So arm and head forwards, leg goes back, leg comes forwards, arm and head go back. So are we on side 2? Have a little go on side 2. Kayla, how are you getting on?
I'm all right. I haven't got that much room.
Okay, yes, sorry, it does take a little bit of room.
I'm in danger of kicking the iPad over, I think, but we'll see.
Yes, that's true.
We'll try that.
Yeah. Beata, how are you doing on side 2?
I was struggling, but again, I'm struggling with the space as well.
Yes. Here's me thinking everyone's got tons of space. Maria, you've got lots of space. You seem to be
Very lovely.
well with this. Jan, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. It's nice.
Does anyone remember this from ages ago?
No,
No.
I've never done this one before. It's lovely.
Yeah.
What I would like you to do is maybe just come and have a little breather lying on your belly, if that doesn't sound too terrible. Because I did this, and then you might just revisit one side again. Just roll onto your belly without sort of getting up, if that's possible, and have a little breather on your belly. And I really found when I did that and I lay on my belly, my breathing was was very lovely. But if you hate being on your belly, then don't stay there too long. You could always roll back onto your side. But just lying on your belly, have your arms and your head however is comfortable. And remember, I've been encouraging us to lie on our belly in each class because I'd read it was good for our breathing. And I think it encourages us to breathe more into the back of our lungs. So just see how it feels to have a few more breaths on your belly. And then in your own time, you could revisit, if you can bear it, one side of that movement, that propeller movement. So remember, when you're coming onto it, and if you need to look at me again, you can do, you're on your side. And it can be a little bit tricky with space. So you're on your side, your bottom leg's bent. You start off with your head as a sandwich between the two arms, but then you let the head roll forwards off the bottom arm, and the top arm comes forwards and the leg goes back. And then you roll your head and your top arm back and your leg comes forward. And you're trying to keep your toes in touch with the floor of the top leg. And you're also trying to keep your fingers of the top arm in touch with the floor, rather than sort of your limbs coming too high off the ground. Very nice. Good. Lovely. And when you've had enough, you're going to roll onto your back this time. Just come onto your back. We will eventually get off the floor. So
No hurry.
You're going to roll onto your back, and we're going to have a couple of breaths and just see how it feels to lie on your back. We're then going to fold our knees into our chest, and 3 times we're going to take the arms and legs up to the ceiling with the buzzing breath. So in between the buzzes, you can fold back in. So fold your knees into your chest, let a breath come in, and then as we buzz, we'll lengthen the arms and legs out. And you can shake out your arms and legs. Hold back in again, let a breath come in. And one more time, let a breath come in. And just before we come off our backs, I think it might be quite nice to lie with your legs long for a moment and just see how you feel, because I found after doing that propeller movement, I felt quite long. I don't often feel that long. So, and what we're going to do from here, so you can just start to prepare yourselves mentally, is we're going to be rolling onto our side, and we're going to be slowly coming over to stand. So we have been lying down for a little while, so just take your time coming over into standing. And we're going to carry on with this feeling of length through the sides of our body. So make your way over into standing. The devices around now, so it might get a little bit clunky for. So up into, so arriving in standing, as you get up onto your mat, you can look at your feet, have them hip width apart and parallel. And I wanted us to start with these movements of reaching up into one arm. And when I was doing these earlier, I think just before this class, and I realized what I do in these, which feels really nice, is I shift my weight. As I reach up in my right arm, I shift my weight into my right foot. And my pelvis shifts to that side. So it's the whole body is getting involved with this movement. It's not just reaching up through one arm and then the other. There's this side to side shifting of the weight that feels nice. Good. And then from here, and Ruth, this is where you just need to be a little bit attentive. From here, we're going to, from reaching up, we're then going to go all the way down into a forward bend. And just be as sort of floppy in your forward bend as possible. Noticing how the backs of your legs feel. Let a breath come in, and then as you exhale, rolling back up into standing. And you're going to take your arms back up and do a little bit more reaching up into one arm and then the other. And Ruth, obviously just be aware of your shoulder. Yeah, if that side it doesn't feel good, don't do it. This time, what you're going to do is you're going to reach up through one arm, and then you're going to catch around that wrist with your other hand. So you're using your hand to sort of draw you up and over, and find even more length through the side of your body. And then swap sides, reach up through the other arm, catch around the wrist with your hand, draw yourself up and over. Let a breath come in, and then again exhale down into forward bend. Just be heavy and floppy at that point. Good. And then let a breath come in as you exhale, sink into your heels, roll back up into standing. And come into this one where we're going to let our arms swing, so this sort of loose, easy swinging. So you can slap your hands onto your body if you like. Yes, actually. I think it reminded me of a poem we had at the beginning about, I think, the petals being scattered on the path. That was it. So I was thinking, and you can do this for a moment. So from here, from swinging your arms and slapping your hands on your body, you can settle down in standing. We can come to these ones. Remember when we start to tap, drum our fingers on our skull. So it's really nice, this a bit like rain. You're drumming your fingertips on your skull. You can go around to the back of the head. You can also drum your fingertips, tap your fingertips on your shoulders. And then you can start to slap your hands on your arms. One arm and then the other. It's a bit less like petals now as we start to slap on ourselves, but very nice for waking up a bit. You can start slapping down your flanks, the sides of your body. There's this one on the chest, where we Tarzan movements. I'm really not slapping your belly. I always think the belly needs to be treated quite gently, circling your hand on your belly. And then there's this one where we have the thumbs in the fists and we bring our hands onto our buttocks. And then you can start to slap down your leg. So if you're slapping down your leg, look up the forward bend and just stop slapping for a moment in your forward bend. And from here, we're going to go on down into a squat. So you may need your, it's just really particularly if you thought your lower back would benefit from coming into a squat, which mine really always does. So if you need your block under your heels or to roll up your mat, just come down for a few breaths into your squat. And then if you're using a block, slide it out of the way because we're going to go back into our forward bend. So breathe in, exhale, send your heels down, send your sit bones up, and then start to slap up your legs. You should have had this. Sometimes NHS pause, isn't it? So we can just go out and slap our bodies outside. So another minute or two, you can put your thumbs in your fists. I think it's time to go outside and clap, and then we'll come back and finish all of this. Where are we? Very nice forward bend, Sandra.
Oh yeah, there's nobody to clap with here, so we'd be on our own.
Country life, isn't it? So
Yeah, Faith does have a big NHS sign outside the gate, a huge one.
oh,
That's our bit. Is that a dog barking?
oh, I don't know. Is there a dog barking? It's not. There's not a dog barking at my end.
Just a noise that sounds like one. Maybe it's not.
Yeah, it did sound a bit like one, didn't it? In the background.
Yeah.
Someone's dog barking. No. Otto was barking at the moment. Yeah. Sound a bit. That was quite funny. We were doing all those slapping things, and then and the clapping started.
Yeah. Vinny doesn't like the clapping.
Doesn't like the clapping. Now Otto was not looking very happy about it at all.
Look, he's on my bed and he's quivering.
Oh, is he? Oh, bless him. Look at him. Oh.
Oh no. Oh, Maddie's just come in.
Okay, so we can And just as people are rejoining, we can come back to fists in our hands, swinging our hands on our buttocks. That's always a good place.
I had to explain to my neighbours why I always charge off.
Do a bit of this circling your hand round your belly. A bit of slapping the hands up the sides of the body. Yes, I'm sure this is all very good for our breathing. Slapping the hands down the arms. And finally coming back to that drumming of the fingertips on the head. So this is where we started. I think I was thinking about the petals scattered on the path. So we could also think about the drumming of the fingers like petals as well as raindrops. And ending up back in. Let the arms go. Now hang on a minute, because I was slightly going off piece there a little bit. So in fact, yes, let me show you what we're going to do now. We're going to do coming forwards again. Ruth, how are you getting on going forwards? Is it okay, or is it making you...
It's fine, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
The second one you may, let's see, you may not want to do so much. Yeah, there's a little sequence. So let me show you. So we're going to go into a forward bend with the feet hip width apart. And you're going to trail your fingers side to side. So this weeping willow one. So really just trying to be very sort of languid and long. Fingers are like branches in the river. Then staying forwards, you're going to walk your feet wider apart. And you're going to do a bit of this, swinging. You are swinging your pelvis now. Do a bit of that. And then we'll do a bit of swinging the arms, yeah? So Ruth, this is the only one you might just want to go a little bit easy with, okay? So those three things. So feet hip width apart. You're going to roll down. And in this first one where you're sort of trailing, you're wafting, trailing your fingers around your feet. Imagining your arms are like the branches of a weeping willow hanging in a river. Very nice haiku about that somewhere. I got it now. Good. And then, yes, I'm just trying to just feel very sort of loose and free with this if you can. And then pause in the centre and walk your feet a bit wider apart. So your feet are as wide as the narrow edge of your mat, roughly. And then see what it's like to bend one knee, bend the other knee, and swing your pelvis from side to side. And just again, it's about trying to enjoy these movements, yeah? So if you're doing something and it doesn't feel enjoyable, then stop. And just, yeah, sort of free and, yeah, enjoyable. And then the final one, and you might want your knees a bit bent for this. So now it's about moving the arms from side to side. So you're swinging your arms from side to side. This is when you're being a gorilla, yeah? So it's a bit channeling your inner gorilla. It's a bit of a twist as well. So as you swing your arms to the right and to the left, you're looking to the right and to the left. Look at me if you're not boring. Then if your lower back doesn't like it, don't do it. Good. And then let yourself flop in the centre. Walk your feet back in towards each other so they're hip width apart and parallel. And then sink into your heels and roll up into standing. And this time when you come up into standing, you're going to let yourself go all the way up into a standing back arch and just see how that feels. So remember, you might want to have your hand on your pelvis, or just this feeling of the arms coming up and the pelvis going forwards and the gaze coming forward. And you might want to come in and out a couple of times. Oh, bend your knees if you like. All right, so that's some big sneeze. Good. And then one last time from here, we're going to go back into a forward bend. And again, from this forward bend once more, we're going to go down through a squat. Again, you might want your block under your heels or roll up your mat. Or it's fine also if you let your heels come up. So you think of, again, if it's nice for your lower back, this is why it could be useful to have a block or a book or a cushion or something under your heels so you can stay in your squat for a few breaths. And from this squat, we're going to come down and sit in cobbler pose. So use your hands on the floor behind you. Otto, stop. On the floor behind you, sitting down in cobbler pose, leaning back onto your arms. And see how it feels to be here. So we're going to do some movements from this position now. So just see how it feels to be in cobbler pose. And in a moment, we're going to come over into pinwheel. So from here, let's, I'm just thinking, I think it would be helpful if we all went the same way. And then I think it would make it easier. So what I'd like you to do is bring your right knee on top of your left knee and then slide the right leg back and do a little bit of circling here. And just circle in both directions, see how this feels. So we're thinking about circling, we're thinking about settling. And in a moment, we are going to fold our body over the left knee. So turning towards the left leg, folding the weight of your body over your left leg. Resting down through your elbows, you may find your forehead touches the floor, it doesn't really matter. Your right buttock is going to come away from the floor. So all of the weight is down through the left leg, the left thigh. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then from here, walk your hands back in towards you. And we're going to move from pinwheel into pigeon pose. So to do this, so I've done this with quite a lot of you, but Beata, I think you obviously remember pigeon. So from here, you slide your left knee back a little bit. And you're going to lengthen your right leg back behind you. If it's comfortable for your left knee, let your pelvis roll. So your pelvis is now level with the ground. And if you take your hand onto your pelvis.
I'm with that. I know that one.
You know that one. Oh yes, no one love it, I'm sure. So remember, if the front knee doesn't like this movement, then you roll out so you're a bit lopsided in it. So see how it feels to be in pigeon pose. I'm going to give you a little option you can do. If you're side on, if you're off to the side, this might not work so well. But if your pelvis is level, have a few breaths being down on your elbow. If you're happy coming up onto your hands, you can, see how it feels to come up onto your hands. And you can do a little twist in pigeon by keeping one hand on the floor and then turning one way and then the other. Obviously, don't do this if it feels uncomfortable in your lower back, yeah? If it feels helpful or interesting or enjoyable, then it's worth doing. You could always go back. If you're happier here on your forearms, you could come back to here.
Easier on one side than the other.
Yes. So is it easier to turn away from the front leg or towards the front leg?
Towards the front leg, I think is easier.
Interesting. Yes. So
you have more I have more balance that way.
Yes. So maybe there's a stability factor here, isn't there?
Yeah.
Don't end up being in pigeon pose for too long. What we're going to do from here, you've got two options. We're going to go into dog pose. So it might be from your pigeon that you can plant your hands down and tuck your back toe under and step all the way back into dog. If not, just come easily onto hands and knees, tuck your toes under and have a bit of a lengthen out in dogs. Gone quite a long way into class, haven't we, before we picked dog pose. So see how it feels to be in your dog pose. Have several breaths in dog. Knees can be bent, Both knees, one knee at a time. Easing yourself out. And from dog pose, we're going to step the left foot forwards into lunge. So that same leg that was forwards in pigeon, we're going to step it forwards. Again, you could come down onto hands and knees, or you could do that straight from dog. So you're going to step the left leg forwards. And we're going to have a look. Oh, you're with me. Good. So you've got your left leg forwards in lunge, and we're just really thinking about the pelvis being heavy. Your toes can be tucked under or flat in your back leg, giving the weight of your pelvis down to the floor. Have a few more breaths here. So a bit like pigeon pose, lunge is all about trying to give the weight of the pelvis down, breathe into it, feel the sort of opening through here. And then from lunge, we're going to go back into dog pose. So again, you could step back from your lunge, or you could go onto hands and knees and come into dog pose. So if we're going from lunge, tuck your back toe under, exhale, step your front foot back. You might end up in quite a long dog pose, in which case you could walk your feet in a little bit towards your hands if you like. And then have a few more breaths in dog pose. See how it feels. Can you let the head go? Can you rest down through your arms? Handprints on the floor. And whenever you're ready to come out, you're going to fold down into child pose. And quiet breaths there. Good. And then in a moment, we will do the whole, everything on the other side. So in case you were worrying about feeling terribly unbalanced, we will move on to the other side. So just have, but before we do so, now, Jude, I don't know if you've got anything to hand, but before, I was going to say, before we do so, I was going to say, slide your hands in towards you, come into kneeling. If sitting your bottom on your heels is a challenge for you, actually, Jude, you could just be an up kneeling, and anyone else who finds this a challenge, because I just want you to do a little twist. So turn each way in kneeling, and you could be an up kneeling doing exactly the same thing. So turning to the right, a few breaths, turning to the left, a few breaths.
Are we kneeling? No.
We're kneeling, yes, or we're, yeah. Yes, or you're up kneeling if sitting down kneeling is not so good. And then from your kneeling, swing yourselves around so you're facing the long edge of your mat once more, and come back into cobbler pose. So we're coming back to the starting point of the sequence. So it's helpful to be facing the long edge of your mat in this. So from here, let your left knee come on top of your right knee, and then slide your left leg back. So we're coming into the other side of pinwheel, and we're doing a bit of circling and settling here. And from pinwheel, we'll do our pinwheel forward bend, and then we'll be coming on into pigeon pose. So all the things we did on the other side. So we'll be balancing ourselves out. So when you're ready, turn to face your right thigh. Fold your body forwards over that right thigh. You feel your left buttock comes away from the floor. All of your weight settling down through the right leg and the right thigh. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then walking your hands back in towards you. So we're coming on into pigeon pose. So you've walked your hands back in. Slide your right knee back a little bit. And then lengthen the left leg out behind you. So we're coming over into pigeon pose again. We've got these two options. One is where we let the pelvis roll, so the back of the pelvis is level. The other one is where we stay a little bit offside to protect the knee. So if the knee doesn't like being here, we go back to that other option. And so remember, you could be on your elbows, this is a good place to be. If you want to explore the twist we did on the other side, on your hand. So I'm doing this and I've got my hand quite far forwards. I mean, if you're very, very happy in this up on your hands, you might want to be higher up, but yeah. And like the artist said, there is an issue of balance here. So that's going to affect the twist. You could be exploring turning with your elbows on the ground. That's absolutely fine. That might make you feel steadier.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. But I think, I mean, all of these things are just things that help us stay in pigeon pose a bit longer. And then remember, pigeon pose, we're going to go into dog pose, so it could be straight from pigeon or come onto hands and knees. If you're going straight from pigeon, you plant your hands down, you tuck your back toe under, you exhale, sink into your hands, and then just organise your feet on the floor. So probably if you stepped back, your back foot was very far back, and you might want to walk your feet in. Let's see, how does dog pose feel? Do you want to bend both knees? Do you want to bend one knee at a time? Letting your head go. Resting through your arms. Big handprints on the floor. And when you're ready, the right foot, so that foot that was forwards in pigeon pose, is going to step forwards in lunge. Kayla, are you still with us? Maybe not. Looks like she's having some technology issues. See her name. So have a few breaths in lunge with your right foot forwards. Again, giving the weight of the pelvis to the floor. Your toes can be tucked under or flat. And yeah, just seeing how it feels. And then from lunge, we'll step back into one more dog pose. So it could be you step back from lunge, or you come onto hands and knees, you plant your hands down, you tuck your toes under, exhaling, rock your hips up and back into dog. Oh, and see how you feel in this dog pose. Again, if dog pose is feeling good, Ruth, please don't overdo it in the shoulder. So if you've had enough in dog, you fold down into child. If dog pose is feeling quite nice by now, you stay here if you like for a few more breaths. Sense of lengthening around the middle. Can you find that in dog pose as well? And then folding down into child pose. And have a few breaths there. It's very nice. I was just thinking back to the poem about there was something about the birds singing, and I can hear birds song both here and I think in someone else.
I can hear it. It's outside.
Yes, so I think there's various bird songs. So,
lovely, actually.
very lovely. Isn't it? So in the empty doorway, many petals are scattered. As they fall, they blend with the song of the birds. So we're going to be coming from child pose onto hands and knees. And again, it's taken us a little while to get here. So we often end up here much earlier on. What I'd like you to do on hands and knees is a bit of tail wagging and a bit of rounding and dipping your spine in cat. And see how these movements feel. So when we're wagging our tail from side to side, we shorten through one side of the body and lengthen out through the other side. And what we're going to be doing from here, coming into a slightly longer hands and knees position. So you can take your hands a little bit further forwards, so they're not under your shoulders now, they're slightly further forwards. And we're going to use our tail wagging to rock us back towards child pose, but keeping the elbows off the floor, and forwards towards face up dog. So wagging our tail from side to side to propel us forwards and back. Side quickly. trying to reconnect, so I'm just going to mute it. So yes, in your own time, a little bit of this in this long hands and knees position, swinging your pelvis from side to side, taking yourself back towards child pose and then forwards towards face up dog. And of course, whenever you want to end up in child pose, having a few breaths, that's absolutely fine. So if you're coming into face up dog, you could maybe do, we're going to do one more face up dog in a moment, maybe rocking yourself back into child pose now, because we're going to, in a moment, do another, what do they say, down dog, and then we'll do one last face up dog. So rock back into child pose for a couple of breaths. And we're going to come back, you might want to look at me or possibly, because we're going to come into dog pose and we're just going to do one of the one-legged dogs. And the one I wanted you to do was this one, where we're just really reaching, we're letting the pelvis roll and we're reaching up and away with our heel. So I'm letting my pelvis tilt and I'm reaching up and back as far as I can with my heel to get this feeling of length through the middle of myself. So yes, that's, and then when you've done that on both sides, you're just going to come into a normal, sort of quiet, planted dog. So yes, one leg dog on each side, that reaching into the heel. If there's another variation you prefer, you can do that. That's absolutely fine. You can always bend the top leg. That one always makes my hip cramp a bit, so I tend not to do it so much. But yeah, see how these one leg dogs feel, this real lengthening into the heel. That's very nice. Really this feeling, can we reach into the heel and lengthen ourselves out in our middle? Doing this on both sides, and then that's very nice, Sam, really sending the heel away and then settling into a sort of quiet dog with both feet down. Doesn't matter whether your heels touch the floor or not, but think about how can you be really planted in dog pose. Maria, see if you can just really let those sort of shoulders and the upper back soften and lengthen. Yes, that's nice. Well done. Very good. And when you come down from this dog pose, you're going to visit face up dog one more time. So it might be that you come into this position with your hands a bit further forwards than your shoulders. You can move into face up dog however you like. You might like to travel into face up dog from you've got the tucked under, you'll tuck your toes under, you've rounded your back, and then you're traveling forwards into face up dog with your back rounded. And then you let yourself open out, you let your pelvis hang, shoulders drop down away from the ears. See how it feels to open out in face up dog. And then coming back, and actually from there, we're going to come and give the legs a little bit of a lengthen out. So sit back, lean back onto your hands. Kayla, have we got you or not?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
I can see you and hear you.
Okay, you can see, but we can't see you. Okay, well, it's good we've got you back. So, all these there's fun with technology. So,
No.
So I'm going to do a little bit of rolling back through our spine. So we'll be moving the spine in the opposite direction to face up dog. So you're going to come to the front of your mat. And we're going to do a bit of this one where we start with, if I move back a little bit so you can see, we start with our hands on our feet. And And then we're trying to keep the back really rounded, looking down towards the floor, our belly. We slide the hands up towards our knees. And then we slide forwards again. So this is about trying to feel very rounded through our back. We're leaning back, and we just keep looking down. So yeah, don't get any sort of interesting view, looking down towards the floor and towards the belly. So obviously it's quite good if you're wearing a saggy baggy t-shirt like me, so you don't have to look at your belly. And then from here, you can roll back and then look forwards to come back up again. So look down as you roll back, keep your knees bent, look forwards to come back up again. So we're trying to do this as smoothly as possible. That would be the intention. The reality might not be. Try and keep the shoulders soft. Try and keep rounded through the back. If you want to next time, you could try the one where we roll back, and then what happens if we lengthen out the legs? Oh, and the abdominals really have to work. Oh. Come back up. We're going to come back to that in a moment, but we're going to do something else first. So maybe just lean back onto your hands and give your legs a little roll out. So you might think, oh, we haven't done any balancing today, but we're going to do a balance now. We're going to think about now keeping our spine very straight. So I'm sitting side on, so you can see I'm not rounding my back. I'm trying to sit up very straight. Can I catch around the back of my legs and come to balance on my sit bones? Yeah. So in this one, if I want to round out my back, I would rock backwards. Yeah. So that's why you're trying to keep your spine very straight to balance rather than roll back. You can see what's it like to lift one leg. Now again, if you start to let your legs come away from your body, that's when you might roll backwards. As you can see, it's happening. You're probably not going to straighten your knees. If you keep your thighs close to your body, you've got very, very long hamstrings. Your legs are not going to straighten. And you're really trying to hold around the back of your legs with the arms. Now, you might need to have a little rest for a moment. These are just a bit of fun because I thought we needed to add in balance. You could lean back for a moment and just have a little breather. So in these, it can be quite helpful to try. So one way is with your feet apart, is to try doing the same balance but catching your feet. There are various ways to do it. So one is from cobbler pose. So I would catch my big toes. And again, I'm trying to bring my legs, if I do it from side on, I'm trying to bring my legs as close to my body as possible, so my knees don't straighten. Another way from here would be to catch the heels. This is where, if you've got beautiful long legs, it's a bit harder. So when you've got short legs like me, it makes it a little bit easier to catch your feet or your heels. Oh, they're quite challenging, these ones in here. These muscles can get a little bit tight, so do come down, give your legs a little roll out. And I'm focusing these little balances. You could try once more, even just coming into this one, think about, yes, my spine is really straight. Can I balance on my sit bones? Could I lift my legs? And then let's let them go, because we're going to come back to rolling down and rounding our back. So back to the and rolling back up again. So just see how it feels to come back to these. We can slide the hands from the feet up to the knees. We can rock back with the knees bent. We can come up. And when you feel ready, if you ever feel ready, there's these ones again. Lengthening out the legs. Trying to balance here. But it is a little bit of a balance here, isn't it? We're trying to balance, I think, like I always say, here on this bit, really sort of between the ribs and the pelvis, Obviously, probably some of the pelvis on the floor, maybe some of the ribs. Oh, yes, lots of huffing and puffing. Oh. So we're trying to feel the shoulders and the heels are the same height. Oh.
Oh, I'm just going to collapse.
You seem darker there.
One more and then you get to lie down. So this is...
Which one are you doing again, please?
What's that?
Can you show me again? You seem to have gone darker today.
I've gone darker. Maybe sometimes when I go back, has it gone brighter again? It might have gone brighter. It's getting darker, isn't it? So it's brightened up. So I was here, sliding my hands up to my knees and then rolling back onto my sort of mid-back.
Oh, yeah.
Arms and legs.
Oh, yeah, I like that one.
I don't think they like this. I'm very impressed. And then and then coming down onto your back. So this is the bit probably you like. The lying down. Oh, we're back on our backs. And you can just, yes, have a few quiet breaths. You can just feel now how your belly can relax. So those abdominals are not needing to work now. Might be nice to let the head roll on the floor to the right and to the left. And just, yeah, just settle and have a few breaths. So quite nice to bring the hands onto the front of the body. Let the breath flow in, let the breath flow out. Just settling, noticing how you feel. How does the breath feel? How does your body feel? How do you feel inside yourself? And what we're going to do when you're ready, you might want a few more breaths lying quietly, is I always, after those rolling down ones, boat pose, they're known as, I always want to do bridge pose, which is again moving the spine in the opposite direction. So when you're ready, you're going to stand your feet on the floor. And actually, maybe before we do bridge pose, come back to that movement where you're tilting your knees to the right and to the left. You've got your knees bent, you've got your feet standing on the floor. You're letting your knees rock to the right and to the left. And you're starting to really feel your feet on the floor. So as your knees tilt, your weight is rocking side to side across the soles of your feet. When we start to prepare for bridge pose, we want to settle the feet on the floor. Really feel the feet on the floor and then starting to sink into the feet, picking the pelvis off the floor, peeling the spine away from the floor, and then rolling back down, trying to place the vertebrae down one by one. So maybe 3 times rolling up and down through bridge pose when you've got these really big planted feet on the floor. We're letting the breath flow in and out. But sometimes I like to just move on my out breath in bridge pose, and when I breathe in, I just pause, I receive the in breath wherever I am, feel very wide in my ribs, and then with the next out breath, roll up or down. And when you've rolled in and out of bridge pose 3 times, you're going to hug your knees into your chest and just have a little bit of a rock from side to side. And I'm going to get you to rock over onto your side and just watch me do the next thing. And you may or may not want to do this. So if you don't want to do this, I mean, you could, yeah, let's just see. You might just want to do a bit more bridge pose. So this is taking us towards shoulder stand. Ruth, I don't think with your neck you probably should do this. Okay, maybe a bit more bridge pose for you with rolling your head in bridge pose. So what you're going to do, so we're going to be moving from bridge pose just like we've done. So rolling up through bridge, coming back down. Then you're going to fold your knees to your chest. And as you exhale, you're pressing into your hands and you're bringing your knees towards your forehead. And you can maybe support your pelvis with your hands. So this may not work for everyone. So first time, that's all you're doing. And then you're lowering your pelvis back down. You're coming back into bridge pose, yeah? And then you'll do that again. Coming up, support your pelvis. Tends to feel a little bit easier each time. You're coming to bridge pose again. And then the third time you come up, if you want to, you could see how it feels to take your legs up towards shoulder stand, but we're keeping it quite easy, quite an easy shoulder stand. So yeah, and then we come down. So it's just 3 times moving between bridge pose and that sort of beginning of shoulder stand. But if that movement isn't good for you, then don't do it. Ruth, what might be quite nice for you instead is to do a bit of this one on the floor, yeah, where you're rocking from side to side.
Oh yeah, that's nice. Thank you.
Like that with bridge pose.
Yeah.
So, else, yeah. So maybe do a bit of bridge pose and then try a bit of that and then go back into bridge.
Okay.
And yeah, the same for anyone else if they don't like the shoulder stand. So you do your bridge pose, then you bring your arms down by your side, you fold your knees into your chest, you exhale, you press down through your arms and see if you can bring your knees towards your forehead. Were you all doing all right there, Sam? Is that feeling a bit effortful? And then you bring your hands to support your pelvis. And then you come back down out of that. You come back into bridge pose again. So you do this 3 times, and it's only on the 3rd time that you would go into shoulder stand. You just come to that sort of beginning place where you're supporting your pelvis in your hands. And if it doesn't work for you, then don't do it after you've tried it. So that's it. So your arms down by your sides, you fold your knees into your chest, you press down into your arms, and you bring your knees towards your forehead. It might take a bit of momentum to do that. That's it, Beata. And then bring your hands round to support your pelvis. And then do that once more. So you can come back down, lower your pelvis to the floor, stand your feet on the floor, come into bridge pose again. And then the next time you can come all the way on into shoulder stand, but keep it quite an easy shoulder stand. Jan, how are you doing? Because you don't normally like shoulder stand very much. Is that okay?
I like it more, a bit more these days, Kara.
Yeah, I mean, I like this one going in and out of bridge pose and shoulder stand. You know, it helps me because I do feel by that 3rd time that it feels a little bit easier.
Yes, good.
And we're not going to stay there long. We're just going to have a few breaths if you have gone into shoulder stand. Yes, you have a few breaths and then you can just come back down onto the floor. So there's something about taking the legs up can be quite nice. We don't need to necessarily stay there very long. So when you come back down, just have a few breaths lying down on the ground. And we're going to do a floor twist in a moment. I will talk you into this. So Kayla, I think we were talking ages ago about different sorts of floor twists. So this is a slightly different one that I've been doing a bit more recently. So you're going to fold your right knee into your chest and lengthen your left leg out on the ground. Let's see, right knee folded into the chest, left leg out on the ground. Bring your right arm out onto the floor at shoulder height. And then what we're going to do, rocking in and out, is start to rock your right knee across your body towards the left, the floor on the left. So you're letting your pelvis come away from the floor on the right. So
But keep your shoulder on the floor, yes?
the right shoulder stays on the floor and your right knee is rocking over towards the left. But I would rock in and out of it. So if you're not sure, have a little look at me. I'm rocking in and out of this twist. So the right shoulder stays on the floor, but the right side of the pelvis comes away from the floor. And then you're going to stay in this twist and have a few breaths. What I tend to do is bring my left elbow onto the floor and support my right knee in my left hand. So it makes like a little sort of platform for the knee. Because it's very unlikely in this one that your right shoulder is going to be on the floor and your left knee is going to come onto the floor, down onto the left, that your right knee is going to come onto the floor, over onto the left. It's unlikely that the shoulder will stay down and your knee will reach the floor, but you might surprise me. So are we all right? And it is nice in this one to rock in and out of it a bit, I think. Good. So you can rock in and out, or you can have a few breaths supporting that right knee with your left hand, like you've made a little sort of shelf for the knee on the hand. Good. And then obviously you can swap sides and do the same thing on the other side. So you would fold your left knee into your chest, you would lengthen your right leg out on the floor, and you'll bring your left arm out onto the floor at shoulder height. And then supporting your left knee with your right hand, start to rock the left leg over towards the right. So the left side of the pelvis is coming away from the floor. You're rolling towards the outer edge of the right leg. But your left shoulder, as I think Beata was saying, your left shoulder stays settled on the floor. So you can rock in and out, or you can stay for a few breaths. So again, supporting the left knee can rest on the right hand. You make a little bit of a platform with your right elbow on the ground. So it really depends whether you want to keep rocking or whether you want to stay there for a few breaths. Let's have a look. Make sure you're supporting your knee with your right hand. And you can then just rock back onto your back. So we're going to do one more little thing on our back before we come over and do some sitting and breathing. And this is possibly where you might need the belt or scarf that I was suggesting you had. Don't worry too much if you haven't got one, because this is quite a simple little thing. What you're going to do is on your back, picking your feet off the floor, you're going to bring your legs into cobbler pose. So this is not with your feet on the ground, with your feet up in the air. And some of you may find you can hold your feet, but some of you may need to loop a belt or a scarf around your feet and hold on to that. You might be able to hold your ankles. And so with your legs in cobbler pose, with the feet up in the air, I just wanted you to do a little bit of rocking from side to side. And so Emma, of course, this is where you can obviously rock all the way over into sitting, should you so wish.
My favourite.
What's that?
My favourite.
Her favourite.
Her favourite, yes, yeah. Exactly. So, yes, if you have the space and the inclination, you could do that, but you don't have to. You might just want to do a bit of rocking on your back. But yes, Beata, you could from this cobbler pose, holding your feet, rock yourself all the way into sitting. That's not really what we're doing now. That's just a little bit of, yeah.
Is that just a bit of fun?
That's a bit of fun, yes. What we are going to do is however you're comfortable, when you maybe just rocking onto your side and then coming over. And we're going to come into sitting, some sitting and breathing. It's a bit dark, doesn't it? I don't know if that's just...
It does seem dark tonight.
Yes. I mean, maybe it's just because it was so sunny today that it's
Yeah.
different. Right, let me try and angle this down so we don't get the light. Might make it better.
Oh, that's helped to make your room brighter, actually.
Yeah.
I might just try turning off this light at the back, but I don't know whether that's going to make it less bright. But I just don't. It's kind of like a halo.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, maybe the angle is something worth playing with. It's just very noticeable, isn't it? I think when it's very bright and then it gets dark.
Mm.
So so come into a comfortable sitting position. So it could be with your back against the wall. It could be your back against the wall. It could be I'm sitting cross-legged on a cushion, being kneeling. And just once you've found how you're going to sit, so it could be really nice to have your back against the wall. Once you've found how you're going to sit, particularly if you are in the room, then any sort of rocking or swaying is very helpful. And yes, what I thought we would do today is one of the alternate nostril breaths, which and this particular one is very calm. What I find can be very calming and settling, because it almost finds that it's almost very much like we slow down the breathing. And in this one, if I describe it and then we'll do it together and you could try. So in this one, we breathe out and in through both nostrils. Then we close, and maybe just use your index finger. You can try this. Use your index finger to close. We'll close the right nostril, and you breathe out and in through your left nostril. And then you rest your hand and you breathe out and in through both nostrils. And then we take the left hand and we close the left nostril, and we breathe out and in through the right nostril. So we're moving from side to side, but we're also breathing in through both nostrils in between. So you don't need to keep your hand up there, and the arm can get quite achy. And yeah, it can just be a bit quieter if you're just bringing your hand up when we need to close the nostril. So this is called pratiloma ujjayi, which some of you may remember from a very long time ago. And yeah, it's meant to be very balancing. So I think we could all do with that at the moment. So let's see how we get on. We'll do a few cycles of it. I'll talk you into it. And I will mute everyone now. So just before we start pratiloma ujjayi, the alternate nostril breathing, just gather your awareness into your breathing. So closing your eyes. If we come back to this thought about the doorways of the body, we're closing the eyes, we're taking the attention inward. We're focusing on the breathing. So the nostrils are one of the doorways of the body. And when we breathe in through the single nostril, our awareness is very much at the nostrils. When we breathe in through both nostrils, our awareness is more in the back of the throat. We feel the breath in the back of the throat. So don't worry too much about that. But if you're familiar with these alternate nostril breaths, that can be quite helpful to focus on. So what I'd like you to do is to let a breath come in through both nostrils. Let a breath leave through both nostrils. And then once more, let a breath come in through both nostrils. And then using your right index finger, close your right nostril. And you're going to breathe out through your left nostril. You're going to breathe in through your left nostril. And then you're going to rest your hand down. You're going to breathe out through both nostrils. And breathe in through both nostrils. Take your left index finger, close your left nostril. Breathe out through your right nostril. Breathe in through your right nostril. Then rest your left hand down. Breathe out through both nostrils. Breathe in through both nostrils. Closing your right nostril, exhale through your left nostril. Long, slow out breath. Breathe in through your left nostril. Rest your hand, breathe out through both nostrils. Breathe in through both nostrils. Close your left nostril, long, quiet out breath through your right nostril. Breathe in through your right nostril. Rest your hand, breathe out through both nostrils. Breathe in through both nostrils. Close your right nostril, exhale through your left nostril. Breathe in through your left nostril. Exhale through both nostrils. Breathe in through both nostrils. Close your left nostril, exhale through your right. Inhale through your right. Exhale through both nostrils. Inhale through both nostrils. You could carry on in your own time if you like, just so you exhale and inhale through both the right and the left nostrils once more. So when you're breathing out and in through both nostrils, you feel the breath in the back of the throat. When you're breathing out and in through the single nostril, you focus on the sensation of the breath at the nostril. And then finishing, just settling with the feeling of the breath flowing in and out through both nostrils. And again, maybe the sensation of the breath at the back of the throat. And as the next out breath leaves you, you can fold forwards, you can touch your hands onto the ground. If you like to touch your forehead on the ground, even if it involves putting your bottom up, you could do. And we're going to lie down now, and I have one more poem for you at the end. So settle yourselves down. Make sure you're going to be warm. I'll keep you muted, I think. till the end. So settling down onto your back. Any little things you do need to do to help you settle, so maybe rolling your head from side to side. Obviously putting on your blanket if you've got an eye pillow. Whatever feels good. Some of you are in darkness, very nice. So settling down. And this is another poem from the Ryokan book. And as always, when we have a poem, it's about letting the words and the images wash over you and maybe into you without grasping at anything or trying to interpret it. Just very much like your breath flows in and out. The rain has stopped. The clouds have drifted away, and the weather is clear again. If your heart is pure, then all things in your world are pure. Abandon this fleeting world. Abandon yourself. Then the moon and flowers will guide you along the way. Just letting yourself settle quietly for another few breaths before I ring the singing bowl. And I was just thinking how appropriate that poem is, because I think we have a full moon tonight. It might be tomorrow. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to unmute you.